For thousands of years, we've been under the impression the Bible was meant to be taken seriously. Finally, a new translation that'll change all that. This is Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible!
Reach out, touch faith.
Welcome to Season 5, Episode 3 of Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible with me, David Tuckman, at my house. Every week on the show, a guest joins me and tries to read a big chunk of my own personal translation of the Hebrew Bible while I make fun of it. And this time we're reading a portion known in Hebrew as Akev, and in English as, well, you'll see. This is what we do every week, so you're gonna find out. Just a little audio note on this episode. We were recording it remotely because, well, that's kind of how you do things right now. And there was a bit of an audio mishap partway through the episode, so if you notice the audio shifts slightly, that's the reason for it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It was a really fun episode and fun to record. And here we go. I want to welcome to the show the editor at Jewish Currents magazine. Please welcome Arielle Angel. How are you, Arielle?
Doing okay. Currently in upstate New York, so doing a little better than usual.
Good. Were you based in Brooklyn before?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where I still am, and I understand why you'd want to get out right now.
Uh-huh. It was so hot in my apartment that I was finding it hard to think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's subtropical now in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
is what the New York Times is saying. Well, I want to thank you for coming. And I always talk to all my guests a little bit about their Jewish background. So I wanted to know just in terms of what religious tradition, or sorry, their religious background in general. So what kind of religious background do you have, or what tradition were you raised with?
I was raised in the conservative movement
Mm-hmm.
in Miami, Florida. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, it's sort of up to like every individual um, congregation, like how quickly they progress. I mean, I know progress is a subjective way of putting it, but I recently found out that, like, for example, when I was growing up and I had my bat mitzvah, I like couldn't read from the Torah. I could only do the half Torah. But I think I've recently figured out that, like, in other places, conservative movements were already kind of on that train.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a more conservative than normal conservative shul in Miami.
Right.
And I went to a kind of like conservadox day school until the 8th grade. So I had, you know, some kind of a Jewish education.
So you have some familiarity with the Torah and the stories in it, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, not as much as I would like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's in there somewhere.
Okay. I mean, have you ever like read through it? Or maybe are there any stories in it or characters that you remember that really stuck out to you?
I have not read through it recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like I do a fair amount of just like reading around. I mean, also in Jewish Currents, we get sent a lot of Dvar Torahs, which we actually don't publish because we don't publish anything. But, we're a secular magazine, but I still read them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I get the chance to kind of like dip my toe in every once in a while. But yeah, I really would like to be doing more Torah study than I actually have time for.
It's hard to find the time. I think I took a 2-year hiatus from this podcast, so I can get it.
Uh-huh.
Do
So
you,
wait, you took a hiatus for the podcast so that you could study?
no, I took a hiatus from the podcast, so I wasn't
Oh,
doing
so
the.
you weren't studying.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I totally get that. Well, let's talk a little bit about Jewish Currents. This is a magazine that was founded in 1946, I think, and very recently has had a resurgence.
Uh-huh.
How did that happen? Or
Um, yeah, go ahead. You were
no, I was
saying.
gonna say it seems like there's been kind of a very different approach. So from my perspective, it's not something that I had heard about until a couple of years ago. Um, so can you describe what changed in terms of how the magazine is published?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, I would say that you share that with most of the staff. I don't think any of us had heard of Jewish Currents before we started working there. Yeah, I mean, it has a 70 some odd year history. It was the magazine of the Communist Party for Jews until 1956, when it formally split with the party after the Khrushchev speech, which detailed the Soviet Union's many crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, basically, it had two editors its entire existence. Morris Shapis was the first editor, who was there until his 90s. And then I think in the early 2000s, it was taken over by Larry Bush, who's, boomer generation, whose parents also were communists. And he was sort of more, he was very critical of that, almost in like the mold of like a Vivian Gornick or something. And he wanted to retire at the same moment that an old reader of Jewish Currents wanted to sort of endow the magazine with, a runway to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that basically to keep the magazine going, they'd have to sort of give it over to the next generation. And they found Jacob Plitman, who's now the publisher of the magazine. He found he made the first hires among a new generation of staff. I was among that first group. And here we are, basically. And yeah, I mean, I think that before this initial investment by the Puffin Foundation, the magazine was sort of a magazine that kind of came from the mind of a single person. That's
Mm-hmm.
Larry Bush. And it had a devoted readership, but that was very associated with him. And I think, just in opening up and hiring more staff, we've kind of branched out and just tried to make sort of an outlet with much broader appeal, I guess. But also like returning to, some of the radical roots of the magazine.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think,
kind of like being a kind of liberal tradition.
yeah, I mean, I think right now in the Jewish media landscape, it seemed like it's a very vital publication. I think, especially with some publications starting to tack right, it felt like Jewish Currents has been extremely important to continue to exist the way that it has existed, or to get back to its roots, as you described. Um, I think especially the current stuff has done a great job in expanding the reach. I think especially with things like the op-ed that you had Bernie Sanders write in it, and the piece from Judith Butler, and I think bringing on Peter Baynart too. I think it really represents that shift in generations in Jewish institution that does need to start happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the strange thing that's going on with Seth Rogen right now is kind of emblematic of like how the Jewish establishment is not wanting to let go of its grip on the conversation or the discourse, and I feel like Jewish Currents is kind of breaking that hold a little bit.
Yeah, I was wondering if we would have to talk about Seth Rogen, but I guess we always have to talk about Seth Rogen now.
Every podcast episode, you have to talk about Seth Rogen. We don't have to talk about Seth Rogen. I am not
Oh
getting
no, I
sponsored.
mean let's talk about Seth Rogen. I mean, no, but it is kind of hilarious that right? Like his
Right,
like Herzog wrote to his mom, and his mom's like, call him, and then
Yeah.
like it became this whole Hasbara thing. I mean,
exactly. And he's like,
the
that's
whole
not what
thing
he
is
said. I
ridiculous.
didn't say.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And like I feel like now everyone's in this like weird race to like re-educate Seth Rogen along some kind of like some kind of Jewish battle lines.
Exactly. As long as he
He
doesn't.
probably like doesn't quite know exactly. He stepped in.
No. As long as he doesn't post a picture of the Barry Weiss book on his Instagram, I hope he'll be
Oh
okay.
my God. Oh my God.
Yes.
You're really bringing up all the hits
Yes.
of the last week.
Yes. It's a very topical. I mean, it's the Parsha of the week that we're reading, and also
Yeah.
all the important tweets. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about just your approach to religion right now. So you grew up in a conservative tradition. Do you identify as a religious person right now in any sense?
No, I
Okay.
mean, I don't think I've never identified as a religious person.
Okay.
Um, but I am interested in text. And
Mm-hmm.
that's always been, I mean, I think even when I was in day school and feeling very resistant to it, I recognized that I actually enjoyed, being in the text, that was something that I felt lucky that I could do and had this opportunity to do. Even at the time, I think I felt that way. And also, it's like the only time in my life where I actually had the time to do it, really.
Yeah.
So,
Being a student was great in that way. Well, we're going to read some of the text. I just have one other question. Do you believe in God?
um, I don't know, like during some acid trips, it's hard to say. I believe in something, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
Good. I have no follow up. So,
Wait, can I ask you a question?
of course.
Does anyone ever ask you if you believe in God when you ask them if they believe in God?
Oh, no, nobody has yet.
Nobody ever asked you
I
that?
don't think so. No, I think in
It's
early
just,
one I said that I was an atheist, like first off, so maybe people didn't.
uh-huh.
But no, nobody
Okay.
has.
And are you still an atheist?
um, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I had Ben Falding on 2 episodes ago, and he said, he doesn't want to call himself an atheist because he doesn't know fully that he definitely doesn't believe. But I feel like I'm in that place. I have
Hmm.
kind of we to be honest, I
You
have
know, there
like
is a word for that.
it's agnostic, but it's that's actually
Yeah.
what an atheist is. Like I think if you look at the definition, like if you're all the way and you're like, look, if there's evidence, I'll believe it, but I haven't seen anything. I think like that's what an atheist is, though I might be misremembering. But I do have some weird theories about the multiverse that I could probably spend 20 minutes talking about.
Yeah. I guess maybe I feel like I have evidence or something that there is something.
Yeah.
Do you know what
I
I mean? Or I don't know.
no, I mean, I feel like there life is a strange thing because it all comes from a single source, right? And what is that? What's outside of the reality that we see? I don't know. Did whatever that is write the words that we're going about to read? I mean, in a sense, because it was written by human beings who had the capacity for thought, but there's no like the kind of strange actions that come from the God we're about to read in this text definitely didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think we need to debate whether God personally wrote this text.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
So, are you ready to read the Torah?
I am ready to read
All
the
right,
Torah.
let's do it. This is Torah, a loose translation, Book 5, Words, Episode 3, Reward, Chapter 10, in which there's an ultimatum, in the normal translation, Deuteronomy 7:12 to 7:26.
Now, as a reward,
So, the word akev, which is what I've translated as reward, also has the connotation of a bribe. So, that's interesting.
oh, for listening to these rules, I love how a bride is the reward.
Yeah, it could be a reward, it could be a bribe, depends on how you want to read this God character.
Uh-huh. Now, as a reward for listening to these rules, keeping them, and also doing them, Jehovah, your Elohim, will keep his treaty and also the kindness he swore to your fathers. He will love you, he will bless you, he will make you many.
All you have to do is just follow his every command to the letter. Easy.
He will bless the fruit of your bellies and the fruit of your ground. He will bless your grain, your wine, your oil, the calving of your herd, and the offspring of your lambs, on the land he swore to your fathers he'd give to you. You will be blessed from all the nations, that none of your cattle, male or female, will be infertile.
That seems a little impossible, but all right, God.
Jehovah will remove all illness from you.
Except for lactose intolerant and a whole lot of other minor and gastrointestinal issues.
By the way, I play D&D now, and
Huh?
I'm always like putting things into like D&D terms. This is like a divine health feature.
Yes.
Any of the bad things you say happen to the midstream will not happen to you.
So, just say whatever you want and then it won't happen to you.
It'll happen to your haters instead.
Hmm.
Yeah, fuck those haters. You will eat all the nations Jehovah your Elohim will give to you.
You ate them.
Your eyes will not take pity on them. You will not worship their Elohim. It's a trap. Now you might say in your heart, these nations are so much bigger than us. How will we ever beat them? Don't be afraid of them. Remember that Jehovah your Elohim did to Pharaoh and all of Mitzrayim. Oh, remember what? Sorry. Remember what Jehovah your Elohim did to Pharaoh and all of Mitzrayim. The great feats you saw with your eyes, the signs, the wonders, the strong hand, and the outstretched fist that Jehovah your Elohim used to take you out. Jehovah your Elohim will do that to all the nations you're scared of right now. Also, Jehovah will send hornets to them.
So the word for hornets here is tsirah, which is said to mean hornets in one of the old translations that I found, but nobody knows. A lot of times it's just translated as tsira. According to the Talmud, it was a very special kind of flying insect that poisoned the Egyptians, blinded them, and made them impotent. So it was very powerful. Why was that left out of the Exodus story and only mentioned here? Who knows?
Made them impotent?
It made them impotent. So
Wow.
it was genocidal because it destroyed them by making them not able to reproduce.
Wow.
Crazy insect.
Until everyone who's left or hidden is dead.
Which makes you wonder where
Do
it
not
was stinging them.
Yeah. Do not fall apart when you face them, because Jehovah your Elohim is within you, a great and wonderful El. Jehovah your Elohim will put these nations in front of you one by one.
Kind of like in a kung fu movie where the guy fights them one after the other.
You wouldn't be able to take them on quickly, or the animals of the fields will overrun you. When Jehovah your Elohim sets the battle up, he'll make them all confused and stuff until you destroy them. He'll put their kings in your hands, and you'll wipe out their names from under the sky. No one will stand against you until you've destroyed them. You'll burn the idols of their Elohims in fire. Just make sure you're not into their silver and gold, and take it so that you don't become trapped by it. It is disgusting to Jehovah your Elohim. Don't bring disgusting things to your house and get banished for it. You will hate it and be disgusted by it because it's banned to you.
So I feel like when you ban something, it makes it even more enticing. People are totally going to take these gold and idols.
But I thought like they were allowed to take wasn't there like rules for how they could kind of, loot dead bodies? I thought I remembered reading that in the Talmud.
That sounds familiar. Maybe in the Talmud later on. It's a little inconsistent. There are some cities where like you get in big trouble. I'm half remembering stuff from Yehoshua or Joshua, so maybe next season if I ever do it, I'll remember it. Like there are some places where there's a way that you can take it. There's some where there aren't. There's also the rules around taking a woman who you've taken as a prisoner of war and making her yours, which
Lovely.
is permitted. Yeah, those are great.
But that's interesting. So you don't become trapped by it. Is that a direct translation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact word used there, but it's kind of the idea is that these are associated with their gods. So it would kind of,
I see.
The word for disgusting is toeva. Like that's the word that's used
Right.
for like different sexual acts, including same-sex intercourse. So it does seem like it's associated with some idol worship, which is also what that passage seems like it's associated with when you read it in context. So it might be that like it's trapping you because in some way, if you take this silver or gold, you're getting pulled into this worship of another god that Jehovah doesn't like.
Mm-hmm. Man, and here I thought we were doing some capitalist critique, but I guess
No,
not so
I'm
much.
sorry. Well, if you're, any property that you own, it pulls you into worship of Mammon and like the desire for the value of that property to continue to rise. So maybe there's something there.
Uh-huh. All right.
Sure.
Do you read the titles or do I?
I read the titles. So that was
All
chapter
right.
10. This is chapter 11, in which it's kind of a ramble. Deuteronomy 8:1 to 10:11.
You should guard over every commandment I've commanded you today and do them so that you live for a long time. There are a lot of you, and you're able to keep the land Jehovah promised to your fathers. Remember every way Jehovah your Elohim walked over these 40 years to humble you, to test you, to know what is in your heart, and to know whether you'll keep his commandments or not. He humbled you and made you hungry so you'd have to eat his weird, strange ma'an, so that you'd always know that man does not live on bread alone.
But why, though? That's not nice.
But man lives on whatever comes from the mouth of Jehovah.
Like a mama bird feeding a baby bird.
Your clothes didn't wear out and your feet didn't swell for 40 years.
Which means they never did laundry. Also, there's one legend that says that their clothes grew with them like a snail shell.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one, actually.
Wonderful image.
Know in your heart that Jehovah, your Elohim, disciplines you like a father disciplines his son.
Just like a father will sometimes intentionally expose his son to diseases, which is a topical joke that I wrote before this plague started.
Watch over the commandments of Jehovah, your Elohim, to walk in his path and to fear him, because Jehovah, your Elohim, will bring you to a good land, one of rivers and waters.
Not rivers of blood.
Of springs and of underground water coming from valleys and mountains. A land of wheat and barley, of vines, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey.
So all the foods mentioned here would become sacred and are associated with Israel as kind of like the special fruit.
A land where you can eat without stopping.
But like you should stop sometimes.
Where you'll always have bread, a land where the stones are all iron.
Then they're not stones, but okay.
And where you can mine for copper in the mountains.
A land of industry, technology, not a single monster as far as the eye can see.
This is like really good Hasbara, you know.
Yeah.
They really have it down.
Yeah, this is
Like they've even got the tech, the high tech
exactly.
tech. I mean, I'm surprised they're not talking about cherry tomatoes yet.
Exactly. The Israeli propaganda has been around for a very long time. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. You will eat, be satisfied, and bless Jehovah your Elohim for this good land he will give you. Just be careful. You wouldn't want Jehovah your Elohim to forget you.
Can he do that? He's like God, right?
Guard over the commandments, rules, and decrees I'm commanding you today.
Oh my God, it's taking like 40 years for him to announce the actual rules.
Maybe once you've eaten and been satisfied and have built nice houses to live in, and your herds and sheep have multiplied, you've got a lot of silver and gold, and everything you have has gone great. Maybe then your heart will grow arrogant, and you'll forget Jehovah your Elohim, who took you out of Mitzrayim, the house of slaves, who took you through the desert, a land of snakes and scorpions, a dry land without water, who brought out water for you from a stone, who fed you ma'an in the desert that your fathers didn't know about to humble you and test you.
Maybe not.
I forgot about these long run-on biblical sentences.
Yes, constantly and.
He really needed an editor. I built this myself, you'll say in your hearts. I made this wealth with the power of my own hands.
So you could say that this is maybe a capitalist critique, actually. Because it's all about, like, you've accumulated all this property and you've become arrogant and think that it's just because of you and your own actions without acknowledging, like, how it was given to you and the collective that worked for it or the God that gave it to you.
Right. Remember that Jehovah, your Elohim, is the one who gives you the strength to generate wealth, to forever uphold the covenant he swore with your fathers until today. I mean, unfortunately, it's not a great capitalist critique because ultimately it's like it's all about God. So, like, yes. I mean, it's very, like, well suited to kind of these Christian capitalist,
definitely.
Ideologies where sort of like you deserve what you got because God gave it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly forget Jehovah, your Elohim, and go after other Elohims and worship them and sacrifice to them, I am warning you today that you are done. You will be destroyed like the nations Jehovah destroyed in front of you, because you did not listen to the voice of Jehovah, your Elohim.
The word for because here is akev again, so it's a nice framing device with the first word of the yeah.
Mm-hmm. Listen up, Israel. Today you are going to cross the Jordan to dispossess some great and powerful nations, big cities with walls that reach the sky, a great and mighty people, the Anakim. Obviously, you know who they are because you've heard the extremely common saying, who will stand up to the sons of Anak?
Everybody knows that.
You know today that Jehovah, your Elohim, will pass before you in a devouring fire to destroy them. He will weaken them so you can beat them and destroy them quickly like Jehovah told you to do. Anakim means giants, right? I mean,
it can, yes.
When Jehovah has tossed them aside from before you, don't say to yourselves, Jehovah, let me take this land because I am so great. No, Jehovah is chasing these nations away because they're so, so bad. You are not coming to take their land because you're so righteous and straight. Jehovah is dispossessing these people because they are just awful. And also to keep the promise Jehovah made to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, your fathers.
Jehovah's kind of just been backed into a corner here. He has to do this.
Just know that it is not because of your righteousness that Jehovah, your Elohim, is giving you this good land as your inheritance, because you are a shitty, stiff-necked nation.
You just fucking suck, to be honest.
Remember, and do not forget how many times you pissed off Jehovah, your Elohim, in the desert from the day you left Mitzrayim until you came to this place. You have been just complete assholes to Jehovah. Jeez.
Yeah.
At Horeb, you made Jehovah so mad he wanted to destroy you all.
Yes, drag them, Moses.
When I went up the mountain to get the stone tablets, the one representing the deal Jehovah made with you, and I stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, not eating bread or drinking water. Way to be a martyr here.
Mm-hmm.
Jehovah gave me the tuned stone tablets written with the finger of Jehovah. All the things Jehovah spoke about with you on the mountain from fire on the day of the gathering were on them. At the end of 40 days and nights, Jehovah gave the 2 stone tablets to me, the tablets of the covenant. Get up, Jehovah said to me. Quick, get out of here. The people you took out of Mitzrayim have gotten real bad and have turned away from the path I commanded them ridiculously fast. They made a molten image. I've seen this nation, and they are a stiff-necked one. Get away from me. I will destroy them and erase their name from below the sky, and I will make you into a nation greater than they are. I turned and came down the mountain. Oh.
He's going through all of the times that they pissed off God. He's really giving it to them.
I mean, what is with this stiff-necked thing, you know?
That's like this weird saying that's in it. It's that they're obstinate. I couldn't think of it's just such weird language. I couldn't think of a different way to interpret it. I kind of
Yeah,
love
I
it.
mean, I like it too, but I'm also just like, we just came out of Mitzrayim, right? Like, and that was sort of the same language that was applied to Pharaoh and the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a theory that this God character is just like not really adept at understanding human nature and is just always pissed off at people.
Right. Well, he's also very needy, right?
Yes, definitely. Kind of a narcissist.
I turned and came down the mountain. The mountain was consumed with fire, and I carried the 2 tablets of the covenant in my 2 hands. I looked and saw how you sinned to Jehovah, your Elohim. You've made a molten calf. It's ridiculous how quickly you turned from the path Jehovah commanded you. I lifted the 2 tablets and threw them, breaking them in front of you. I fell before Jehovah again. For 40 days and 40 nights, I didn't eat bread or drink water.
Just cake.
Because of all the sins you sinned, the evil you did in the eyes of Jehovah, who you made mad. Jehovah's anger was fierce enough to destroy you. I was terrified, but Jehovah listened to me.
Wow.
Jehovah was mad enough. Oh.
No, he's leaving.
Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, he leaves so much out of this because, like, it's not just that they turned away from God. They thought they didn't know that Moses was ever coming back. So
right.
and they had an orgy, and it was all kinds of craziness. But this is like a sanitized version of it that makes them more
Right,
the
where they
villain
were
than they actually are.
abandoned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm. Jehovah was mad enough at Aharon to destroy him, so I also prayed for Aharon. I took the sins you made, the calf, and burned it in fire. I ground what was left to dust and threw it in the river that ran down the mountain.
So he's also skipping a whole lot of killing, where basically he has like a militia that's loyal to him run through the the camp and kill a bunch of people who were rebellious. But you leave that out when you tell the the
Oh, I
version to
totally
their queue.
forgot that part. Who
Yeah.
did they kill?
Just a lot of
Did
people.
they kill like the people who like came from Mitzrayim and converted when they
No, that might be a
wasn't there
different.
something about that?
Yes, there's this like group called the Heir of Rav, or like the mixed crew that's always getting into trouble, but that happens later after this.
Uh-huh.
This is
Okay.
like the first big issue. But there's like I'm pretty sure that I might be misremembering because it was like 5 years ago when I did this, but he grinds and I should probably reread it, right? But he grinds the calf into dust and forces some of them to drink it and
Oh,
kills
right.
them then that way. Yeah.
Right. And wasn't it like if they drank it and it like was some kind of, maybe I'm misremembering this. I feel like I'm gonna about to say something that's not true. But if it's like some people drank it and didn't die because
You
they weren't the
you
people who,
you might
something like that.
you might be combining it with the sota, which
Oh
is
yeah,
where
maybe it's just
right, if the woman cheats on
right,
her
where they kiss.
husband.
Yeah.
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 But this is the whole thing where he's like Mila Hashem Elai, who is to Jehovah with me, and like the people stand their ground. But the whole civil war is left out of this version of the story.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, you don't want to remind them all of that. It
Exactly.
might still be a sore point.
That was their parents. So the ones who
Hmm.
basically the ones who are dead, the ones who rebelled are dead now and aren't around. So nobody remembers
Mm.
them.
Uh, okay. You also made Jehovah mad at Tavera, Massa, and Kibrot Tatava.
So Kivrot Hava is translated as the graves of lust. And and I don't really know why, but according to rabbinical commentary, this refers to what happens in season 4, episode 3, or the third parsha of Bamidbar, when the people really, really wanted meat. So Jehovah sent them quail, and then he got really pissed off at them for wanting meat. So he sent them a plague while they were eating the quail.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I remember this one
Yes,
too.
the Slavs. So the graves of lust might be
Uh-huh.
because they lusted after meat and when they were killed for it.
Hmm. When Jehovah sent you up from Kadesh Barnea, telling you to go up and take possession of the land he would give you, you disobeyed the word of Jehovah, your Elohim. You did not believe him. You did not listen to what he said. You have been rebellious to Jehovah from the day I met you.
Jeez.
I fell before Jehovah for 40 days and 40 nights again, just like when Jehovah wanted to destroy you. I prayed to Jehovah. My master Jehovah, I said, do not murder your nation, who you redeemed with your glory, who you took out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. Remember
Okay.
your slaves Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Forget about how stubborn these people are, their evil, and their sins.
It's not really making a case for them.
You don't want the country you took us out of to say, oh, wow, that Jehovah wasn't able to take them to the land he talked about. He hated them and took them out to die in the desert. Is this like how you convince God?
Yeah,
Like,
this is basically the tack he always takes because it's all about his narcissism.
yeah. You don't want other people to think this about you, do
Yeah.
you?
No.
What will they say about you?
You killed your people? This God's useless.
They are your people that you took out with a great strength and an outstretched arm. Carve 2 stone tablets like the first ones, Jehovah said to me back then, and bring them up the mountain. Also make a wood box. I will write the things that were on the first tablets you broke on the new tablets. Then you'll put them in the box. So I made a box of shittim wood and carved out 2 stone tablets like the first ones. I went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand.
It's moving fast. It's like a montage right now.
Jehovah wrote on the tablets, like the first time, the 10 things that Jehovah, your Elohim, said on the mountain from inside the fire on the day of congregating. Jehovah gave them to me. Then I turned and went down the mountain.
Sounds like he's leaving some stuff out, but that's okay.
I put the tablets in the box I made. They stayed there, just like Jehovah commanded me. The sons of Israel traveled from Beirut Bnei Yaakan to Mosera. There Aharon died. There he was buried. There his son Eleazar was made Kohen in his place.
That was kind of a quick jump, but all right. Moses is a
Yeah,
weird
what was
narrator.
supposed to happen between then?
I don't think much actually. It was probably, just a lot of like the parshas between that are probably just a lot of rules and reading
Uh-huh.
out. Like that's probably giving all the rules for the Levium and for the Kohanes and what they should wear and all
Uh-huh.
that stuff. Which is why it's left out here. Because it's
From
repeated.
there we travel yeah. From there we traveled to Good God. Is that a place?
Yeah,
Good God.
good God. Not God,
Okay.
God.
Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, God, like
God. Like the word, like the name.
uh-huh. Yeah, I mean I would probably spell that with an A.
Okay.
From Good God to Yatbata, the land of springs of water. That's when Jehovah divided the tribe of the Levites to carry the box of the covenant of Jehovah, to stand before Jehovah for his service and to bless his name until today.
So usually I call out that the until today is usually not right, but this one is probably pretty accurate because he's only speaking not that long after it happened.
Uh-huh. That's why the Levi doesn't have a section or an inheritance like his brothers. Jehovah is his inheritance, just like Jehovah, his Elohim, said to him. I stayed in the mountain. Do you think they kind of felt cheated there or
Oh,
what?
totally. Yeah, because they were like, you don't get to have any land. You have to live in these cities and everybody else's land, and your reward is that you have to work in the temple.
Yeah, that sounds like a raw deal.
Absolutely.
I stayed in the mountain like the first days for 40 days and 40 nights, and Jehovah listened to me, this time also, so that Jehovah wouldn't destroy you. Get up, Jehovah said to me, go before the nation. They will go forward and inherit the land I promised their fathers to give to them.
That's chapter 11. Oof.
All right.
This is chapter 12, in which Moses just kind of talks about God for a while. Deuteronomy 10:12 to 11:25. These chapter breaks are pretty arbitrary at this point. There's a lot just happening.
Now, Yisrael, what has Jehovah, your Elohim, asked from his nation? Moshe continued, to fear Jehovah, your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, to love him, and to serve Jehovah, your Elohim, with with all of your heart and all of your soul.
Not much.
To guard over the commandments of Jehovah, his decrees that I commanded you today for good. You see, Jehovah owns the sky and the sky of the skies and everything within it. The sky of the skies.
Sky
Okay.
of the skies. Whatever that means, Jehovah owns it.
Whatever that means, he owns it. The only thing that brought Jehovah joy was the love of your fathers. And he wow, okay.
Well, maybe he needs
The
to learn to
only
love
thing-
himself.
Maybe he needs like antidepressants or something.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is like a severe case of anhedonia. And he chose their seed after them, you from all the nations to this day. Circumcise the foreskins of your hearts. Oh
What
my God.
the fuck? I didn't know they had
It
those.
isn't enough that you actually circumcise the foreskins, but now you have to. I mean, also, first of all, now we're learning that your hearts have. Does my heart have a foreskin?
No, because you circumcised it.
Oh, God. Okay. Do not stiffen your necks anymore, because Jehovah, your Elohim, is the Elohim of the Elohim. And the master of all masters. Sorry, I needed a minute to take that in.
It's all right.
The great and strong El, the awesome one who does not turn his face or take reward. There's the word again, isn't it?
Stiff neck.
The bribe.
Oh, the bribe, yeah.
He does justice for the orphan and the widow. He loves the stranger to give him bread and clothing. You must love the stranger too, because you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. It's a real That's a hit.
Yeah, that's a big one that gets repeated a lot, and then people just ignore because they are xenophobic and they don't want to.
Fear Jehovah your Elohim, serve him, stick to him, swear by his name.
But not in vain.
He is your glory. He is your Elohim who has done the great and awesome things you've seen with your own eyes. Your fathers went down to Mitzrayim as 70 souls. Now Jehovah your Elohim has made you many, like the stars of the sky. You gotta love Jehovah, your Elohim, and guard over his guarding, his decrees, his rules, and his commandments all of your days. You'll know today that it was not your children, and they did not know and did not see Jehovah, your Elohim's lesson, his greatness, his strong hand and his raised fist, his signs, his actions that he did in Mitzrayim to Pharaoh, the king of Mitzrayim, and to all his land, what he did to the army of Mitzrayim, to their horses and their chariots when he rolled the Reed Sea on them as they raced after you, destroying them to this day.
Well, talking about
He's
that
still destroying them?
sentence. Yeah. They're still destroyed. They're never coming back. As we know,
Oh,
Egypt is gone
I
now.
see. He's not in the process of destroying them.
Yes.
They continue to be destroyed.
Exactly, yes.
Got it. And what he did for you in the wilderness until you got to this place, and what he did to Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, when the earth opened and enveloped them, and all they had, devouring their followers who walked amongst you. Who were those guys again?
They were two of Korach's lieutenants during his rebellion against Moshe.
Ah,
yes.
Right, okay. You have personally seen all the amazing things Jehovah has done.
Not true. Their parents did, and they're dead.
So you'll follow every commandment. Well, they're always conflating.
Exactly, yeah. That's all Judaism.
That's the whole thing with Judaism.
Yes.
You'll follow every commandment I command, so that you'll always be strengthened, and you will be able to take over the land you're about to cross over to take. And your days on the earth will always be lengthened, just like Jehovah swore to your fathers, to give them and their seed a land flowing with milk and honey. Ooh. A lot of hits in this one, in this parsha.
Yes, they're repeated a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a lot of milk and honey in this one. That's a big one.
Yeah. Because the land you're going to isn't like the land of Mitzrayim that you left. There, to get your seeds to flower, you had to water them yourself like a vegetable garden. But the land you're going to is a land of mountains and valleys, where the rains of the sky will quench the land. A land where Jehovah, your Elohim, always keeps a watchful eye year-round.
We're back to the Haspara again here.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, of course, none of that is true. I mean, right. Until, of course, they created that amazing drip irrigation.
Exactly.
Now, it is true.
And those cherry tomatoes.
If you keep my commandments that I command you today, to love Jehovah, your Elohim, and to serve him with all of your hearts and beings, I will give you rain to your lands at the rain time, the early rain. You'll gather grain, wine, and oil. I'll give you grass in your fields for your cattle. You will eat and be satisfied. Be careful not to turn your hearts away and serve other Elohims and bow to them. Like as if you might do that by accident.
Mm-hmm. Just watch out, be careful.
Jehovah will get very angry at you. The skies will be closed. There will be no water, and the ground will not deliver its bounty. It won't take long before you are wiped away from this good land Jehovah gave to you. Take my words and put them on your hearts and on your necks. Like a neck tattoo?
Yeah.
Tie them as a sign on your hands and as a symbol between your eyes. Teach them to your sons. Say them when you leave and when you get home, when you sleep and when you get up. Write them on the lintels of your houses and on your gates, so that I will lengthen your days and the days of your sons on this land that Jehovah swore to your fathers to give to them, as long as there is a sky above. Because if you guard over every one of these commandments I've commanded you extremely well, to love Jehovah your Elohim and to walk in all his ways, sticking with him, Jehovah will push away all these nations from in front of you. You'll beat nations much stronger and bigger than you. Everywhere you go will be yours, from the desert to Lebanon, from the river of Prat, to the western sea. No man will stand up to you because of the great terror and fear Jehovah will put on all the land in which you set foot, just like he told you.
And with that extremely Zionist statement, we'll close out chapter 12. That's chapter 12, and that's Akev. Thank you so much for reading.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
you're welcome. That was a lot. So now's the part of the show where we have a Devar Torah, which literally means Torah word. So I was wondering if you could try to sum up everything that you've read into a single word.
Um, a single word, that's tough. I think I would say unconvincing. Or I don't know. I mean, like, it's just sort of like, it's like if God was so great, would he
Mm-hmm.
need to tell you how great he is all the time? Like it's like Moses is such like a used car salesman in this parsha,
He
you
is.
know. He's
And the
like, look at this car, like there's nothing wrong with the engine, like it totally got us here, you know.
it's gonna last forever. It's gonna get you
It's
there.
gonna yeah. Yeah, it's like if any of this stuff was true, you know, would you I don't know, it just seems a little desperate. Like I would be very if I were the intended audience for this, which
Hmm.
I guess in some ways I am, I would
Yes.
be very suspicious.
Well, it's kind of also like you have to treat it perfectly well. Don't step out of line in any way. As long as you hold the wheel just right, it's gonna get you there. It's the best
Yeah,
car. It's the best car. But
right.
just be very
And then
careful.
of course like all the lies about the land of Israel.
Yes. Absolutely. He's really trying to sell them on Israel, which he'll never see, so they can't blame him if he's wrong. He's never even been there. And
Yeah,
on this faith thing. It's
right.
sad.
I forget, is this like has the thing happened yet where they sent kind of like the forward observers who came back and were like, I don't know, dude.
Yes, so
It's pretty
that
gnarly over there.
that was described. So all of Devarim, as you probably know, is like Moshe is taken to the edge of the land. God is like, take a look at it. You're gonna die. You're never gonna go there. Now you have to pass off the reins to Yehoshua,
Right.
and the whole thing is him just like one long monologue of him preparing the people to go in and telling them stories of everything that's happened to their parents beforehand. So that happened like 38 years ago. And
Uh-huh.
all of those people are dead, and these are their children who are allowed to go into the
Right.
land.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like it's a lot of salesmanship, and it's sad that this is what he's doing before he dies. It's just this long sales pitch.
Right.
My word was guilt, because I feel
Uh-huh.
like so much of this is focused on the things that they've done wrong and kind of like reminding them and dragging them through their guilt and reminding them that they have to be good and all the bad things that can happen to them if they do step out of line and how pissed off
Right.
Jehovah could be, which is a little scary, but that's kind of what he decides to focus on for this piece.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is sort of, I mean, I can see the utility of it, right? Because they're about
Yes.
to go to a place with a lot of hostility where their literal job is just to like wipe everyone out.
Mm-hmm.
So I see how it would be useful to have a powerful God on your side for this quest.
Yes.
Um, you know,
But it's
a very
troubling.
effective means of control.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, they don't know. There's no. This is the only written record and wasn't really written at the time, so they have no idea. All they have is this guy's word to know what happened in the past, and they're just going to believe
Hmm.
him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind
It
of.
doesn't sound that much fun to be, an ancient Israelite. Um,
No, definitely not. You remember when you complained about meat and we had to kill you? And God didn't give you bread so that he could show you how wonderful he was by giving you some weird wafer that tasted like coriander, remember?
I
Yeah.
well,
All right. Well, do you have any other? Is there any other thoughts that this brings up for you, or anything else?
I don't know. I mean, it's fun to read that. It is also like a little terrifying because, like, of course, you're. I mean, I'll just tell you. Maybe this is like too serious for your funny, fun podcast, but
It's totally
I was
okay.
on. I had a distant cousin get in touch with me who was kind of like, hey, like I really feel like I don't know anyone personally who feels the way that you do about Israel, and I was really hoping I could just like ask you some questions or whatever,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I had a phone call with her, and she's Orthodox, and she's actually like kind of um, she hasn't like bought the whole thing hook, line, and sinker. She's heard a lot of the lines, like about what's that there was nobody there and Palestinians aren't a people and they refused the things a million times and et cetera, et cetera. But she is like skeptical of it,
Hmm.
and I had like a probably 2-hour conversation with her just trying to counter some of these narratives. And then she said, look, like all of this sounds totally plausible to me, what you're saying, but how do you contend with the fact that we were given this land by God, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm kind of like, well, I can't. There's nothing I can say to that. I mean, if that's the thing that you want to, if that's like the point of argument, there is absolutely nothing I can say to that.
No.
And so I don't know. I mean, that's like in the back of my mind reading
Oh
this,
gosh, yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's the troubling thing too, because it's like there's this idea that, I mean, people are talking about Jews being indigenous to the land now, or like
right, right,
even
right.
the idea that it was
She
given by
brought that
God,
up too, my
right?
cousin.
But it was given to them by God in like a genocidal war. Like
Yeah.
that has to give you some moral pause too. Like there's a really dark side to this story, even if it is
or
like
or no, or no moral pause, because then this just becomes an extension of that war. And then
absolutely, yeah,
if we were permitted to do it then, well, then why aren't we permitted to do it now? And
right.
it is our birthright to do it the same,
Yes,
you
D-
know.
definitely. I mean, I think that's the dark reflection of this story. That's like almost an undertone. You kept talking about Hespera or like Israeli propaganda, but it almost is like the undertone of the story and like the expansive borders of Israel that are drawn in the very last thing that you read. That's kind of
Right,
really
right.
unspoken in the way we talk about Israel now.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm working on a piece now which is about basically like how the kind of legal regime that allowed for the expropriation of Arab land.
Hmm.
And some of these laws that were written like, in 1948 and 1950, like right when they were trying to figure, they basically snapped up all this land from the Arab landowners who had vacated that land during the war, I mean, because they were fleeing the war.
Right.
And they snapped up the land really quickly. And the way that the laws are written are actually like anyone residing in the outside, any Arab who left the state of Israel but is in the land of Israel, they are now an absentee. Their property is classified as if they're an absentee landlord or like an absentee
Huh.
property owner. So they're already using this thing where it's like they're distinguishing between the state and the land, but the land is basically like greater Israel,
Right.
as defined in this, um, so, I mean, and like there is no land of Israel,
No.
there's only the state of Israel at this time, but they're using the land of Israel in their laws,
Right.
you
And
know,
they have this in like that is their aim and that is how they're defining it. And there's kind of this expectation that, well, it's ours. It's just a matter of taking it.
taking it back.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the other thing that I noticed in this thing is in this parsha too, is that like as long as we're still there, like religiously, then we kind of still deserve to be there, right?
Hmm.
Because like as long as we're not being tossed out, it
Right.
means
That's
we
true.
we're still okay.
Right.
We're still okay by God,
Right. Right. Because he says that if you step out of line, basically the land's going to reject you. You'll be thrown out immediately. Will be dispersed. So it's like it proves that we have the right to it by our continued existence there.
I mean, I hate to like, be a bummer on this
No,
podcast, but
it's
like
totally okay. No.
it's a pretty upsetting. It is like, in terms of like what the implications of this exact parsha is, it's a pretty tough one.
Yes. No, I mean, I'm glad we actually are talking about it because it's a theme that's been running through a lot of what we've been reading recently. And like, I haven't gotten into it that much. But I am glad that we are getting a little deeper into these ideas because it is like, I've been joking about it a lot and like calling out when there
Yeah.
is genocidal things and like there are things like destroying all the gods and everything and killing like the men, the women, the children, and even the cattle. But that's there and it's in the text and it's part of the tradition. And I think, we can't really talk about Zionism or Israel or what is being done there now without acknowledging that, at least at the very minimum.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we certainly can't because there are a large number of people in the Knesset who believe this to be literal.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
so,
And in Israel.
policy is happening on these terms.
Yep, absolutely.
So I don't
And
know.
it's not great.
Yeah, it's not great.
I don't know what else to say.
I wonder if they've circumcised the foreskin of their hearts.
I think they have a little bit too much. So that was there's actually like I looked at a commentary for that and it was like, yeah, the piece that's on your heart. And I was like, that doesn't
What? Wait, you mean they're just like, the foreskin
the
on
foreskin, the foreskin on your heart. Like that didn't explain anything.
Oh my God, that is bizarre.
Yes. I think we'll close it out.
All right.
This has been great talking to you. Is there anything that you want people to check out? Anywhere they can look at what you're writing or Jewish Currents in general?
Yeah, you can subscribe to Jewish Currents. It's only $30 a year. You get 3 full issues and a winter gift, which changes, so it's a surprise. And yeah, you can go to jewishcurrents.org and check it out.
As always, you can check out the podcast. We're in all the podcast places, iTunes, or whatever they call it now, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud. The website is omgwtfbible.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to send me an email, send one to omgwtfbible@gmail.com. If you like the show, please rate and review it on iTunes. If you don't like the show, don't do anything ever again. Just stay where you are right now. If you want to share the show, a nice way to do it is to send a letter to an extremely religious member of Knesset and let them know about it and just see what happens. We'll see where it goes. Don't do that. Please don't do that. I want to thank you again, Arielle, for being on the show and reading this with me. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it. I want to thank you all who are listening to this for listening to it. And please be sure to join us next time, because next week in the Bible,
Jubilee!
Yay!